From a growing number of debilitating injuries to his already successful career, to missing half of the 2023 season, this is why Rafael Nadal needs to retire. Rafael Nadal is one of the most decorated tennis players in the history of the sport, but like all of the greats, their time has to come to an end eventually. After withdrawing from the 2023 French Open, Nadal announced his retirement for the second half of 2024. This wasn't much of a surprise, considering the growing number of injuries and losses that he was racking up. Let's talk about why retirement might be the best thing for Nadal. The number one reason that he should probably retire is the fact that after 20 years in the sport, his body is not holding up as well. That's not to say that Nadal is not in great shape, but as he's getting older, the small injuries he gets during training and matches begin to add up. And let me tell you, there's been a ton of small injuries. Around 2008, reports began to circulate that Nadal was dealing with a slight case of tendinitis. This didn't keep him from reaching the semifinals for the US and Australian Open that year, but it would cause him some trouble in the future. In fact, his tendinitis would grow so severe that he would drop out of Wimbledon in 2009. That same year, he would begin to complain about abdominal issues while working his way up to the US Open semifinals. The next few years, Nadal suffered several knee injuries and even appendicitis in 2014. It seems like he just couldn't catch a break, and as the years went on, his injuries caused him to drop out of matches much more frequently. It seems like the final nail in the coffin for Nadal was a left hip flexor injury he received in 2023. This injury would cause him to drop out of the French Open for the year and finally announce his imminent retirement in the latter half of 2024. If you look at the big picture, it's no wonder that Nadal is eyeing retirement. There is only so much abuse a body can take in a lifetime, and it seems like he has finally hit that limit. Tennis is one of the most demanding sports there is, so it's no wonder that years of playing has finally begun to take its toll. It was only a matter of time before it began to affect his playing and even his daily life off the court. Other major players in the sport have even commented on Nadal's health and how it seems to be deteriorating. This includes tennis legend Chris Evert, who in an interview stated that Nadal should be looking to wind down. She also noted that he seemed much more fragile lately and that his injuries seemed to be giving him a lot of trouble. Looking out for his overall health for the future should be Nadal's number one priority, and it seems like he's taking that advice to heart with his retirement announcement. His injuries tie into the next main reason Nadal should really just retire: his recent losing streak. During the matches that Nadal was able to compete, his performance going into his retirement announcement had not been great. 2021 saw him blow a two-set lead against Stefanos Tsitsipas in the Australian Open quarterfinals, as well as a loss to Djokovic in the French Open semifinals. Chronic foot pain kept Nadal from playing in any matches for the rest of 2021. The next year, a torn abdominal muscle caused him to drop out of Wimbledon and was thought to be the main cause of his loss in the fourth round of the US Open to Frances Tiafoe. 2023 was much of the same, with Nadal taking a loss in the second round of the Australian Open to Mackenzie McDonald while dealing with his left hip flexor injury. After that, it was curtains for Nadal for a while, who entered an indefinite hiatus after announcing his retirement. Many fans agree that it would be best for Nadal to bow out before taking too many losses due to injuries or simple burnout. A long string of big losses in a row has to feel pretty bad, so there's no real reason he should keep doing it to himself, especially if his health issues are keeping him from playing his best. But there is a silver lining to his retirement announcement, and one that could very well be a factor in why he decided to call it quits. In late 2022, Nadal and his wife welcomed their first child into the world. This has no doubt been a major adjustment for the tennis star, who is likely starting to reconsider what is important to him in life. With a new baby around, he is probably looking forward to having more time to spend with his family. He has also likely considered the toll the sport is taking on his health lately and thinking about how it could affect his quality of life in the future. Having a kid means a lot of activity, so having his body in the best shape possible is going to be a big deal. One thing is for sure, the news of his retirement hit the tennis world hard, with many wondering what the French Open would be without Nadal.
Next year, that's probably going to be my last year in a professional tour.
For years, he has been such a big part of the sport that fans and players both are sad to see him go. His biggest rival, Novak Djokovic, was particularly upset at the news and stated in an interview that, "When Nadal announced he was leaving, I felt a part of me was leaving too." He of course would go on to say that he won't miss Nadal dominating the courts at the French Open, stating that he always had a hard time against him when they are matched up. Nadal is such a big part of the French Open that they even put up a statue of him at Roland Roland Garros. So it's safe to say that he's a pretty big deal out there. Fans having been coming from all over the world for years to see him play, a long-standing tradition that will soon come to an end. There is some excitement among fans to see how the French Open shapes out now that some of its biggest competitors are moving on. With stars like Roger and Nadal no longer competing, it opens up the possibilities for new champions to emerge. This is an exciting prospect to fans who, understandably, may be getting tired of big names like Roger, Nadal, or Novak Djokovic winning year after year. Djokovic is set up to dominate the French Open after Nadal's departure, but it will be interesting to see who rises to the occasion and take a new spot among the all-time greats. But like all the greats, their time in the sport must come to an end, and Nadal has quite a rich career in tennis that he is leaving behind. From Olympic gold medals to record-setting wins, one could argue that his career has been so full and successful that he may as well retire, as he will go down as one of the all-time great tennis players no matter what. From the very beginning, it was clear that Nadal was a cut above the rest. He reached the third round of Wimbledon when he was only 17 and became the youngest player to make it that far in over 20 years. In 2005, he would make his French Open debut, where he would take the title and set another record for the most trophies won by a teenager in ATP history. Throughout his career, Nadal would go on to win a record 14 French Open titles. In addition, he would also take home the gold at the 2008 Olympics. Considering all that he has achieved, no one could blame him for hanging up his racket and bowing out of the sport for good. What a lot of fans think is most impressive about Nadal is that he pulled off some really big wins in spite of his injuries. Missing the 2023 French Open was likely a huge blow, and one that pushed him into making the decision to finally retire. It would be the first French Open Nadal has missed in over 19 years, though it's clear that he has a lot to look forward to in his retirement. With a new baby and a bunch of free time, he is likely to find that it suits him really well. Only time will tell whether or not he is able to fully recover from his numerous injuries, or if they will go on to affect him even in his retirement. With any luck, some time away from the sport will do his body some good, and he can begin to heal for good from the rough time he spent on the court. Luckily for him, Nadal has a wide range of different business ventures to keep him busy after his retirement from tennis. This includes hotels and restaurants that he owns that many predict will earn him millions of dollars over the first few years of retirement. In addition, he also has a successful perfume line, income from sponsorships, and his tennis academy to help keep him occupied in case he gets bored off the court. So, from a growing number of debilitating injuries to his already successful career, this is why Rafael Nadal needs to retire.
And Rafael Nadal has declared next year will likely be his last of professional tennis. After announcing this morning he is pulling out of the French Open.